2.
Hey, crazy. Hey, is this gonna be on the blooper reel again? Yeah. Doodles. Manny Junior. Hey, deaf guy. Hey, Junior. Junior. Junior, speak. That's one well-trained dog right there. He is deaf, after all. We'll give him a break on that.
So the hand signal.
Q&A Saturday. I got a question of my own. Where are the cookies? Where do I look so I don't look like I'm looking off camera?
This one.
I look over there?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I'm the star after all.
It's true.
Hey everybody, it's Sean. Oh, I'm looking the wrong way.
Oh.
I'm trying. Hey everybody, it's Sean with Good Dog, and the lovely Laura Morgan, who's looking decidedly less dark emperorish than her last Q&A. She's back to her normal self, so it's good stuff. We are with you on our front porch in North Hollywood. So we've been globetrotting. We've been everywhere. We've been in New Orleans. We've been in Santa Cruz. We've been on the plains. We've been everywhere. And we're back in LA and here to answer some questions for you. So we've got Q&A Saturday. We're going to start off with Heidrun, also known as Heidi. I don't know if she says Vila or, like Bob Vila. She's Icelandic, so it's probably not like Bob Vila. Anyways, we're going to go with Heidi.
Can I read?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Are we doing that?
Yeah.
Or am I just here to hold the camera?
Just a camera holder.
All right.
Sorry. Ready?
Okay. Heidi. Hey, Sean and Laura. Hope you're well. So great meeting you both. Hope that I will do it again.
We met her at
too.
ICP conference.
Yeah, I miss her.
She's sweet.
So much. I'm just wondering about expectations on working on very sound-sensitive, fearful dogs that shut down to sounds and or react to certain things out of extreme fear. In your experience, how much time would you give a dog like that to be able to relax more? I know it depends on the dog, but what is your experience with very fearful dogs? Weeks, months, years? Thank you.
Makes me tired just thinking about weeks, months, and years. Okay, so obviously, Heidi works with a lot of dogs. She's a pretty well-known trainer in Iceland. And nervous, fearful, especially if you're talking about real fearful dogs, really fearful dogs, they can be the ones that take the longest to really turn around or see how far you can get them. It's so hard to say without seeing the dog, knowing what you're up against. But sound sensitivity, sensitivity to pressure, spatial pressure, sensitivity to, novelty, things changing. All that stuff takes a lot of time. But what we find is just basically the usual route of doing structure rules and guidance really helps just take a lot of the stress out, which gives us the opportunity to start making inroads with that fearful stuff, right? So it's not the answer, it's just kind of the foundation for that answer or to get there. So once we have that, then we start doing stuff I talk about, like pressure tolerance work, where I'll have a dog in place and it's like slow flooding, and I'll introduce things they're fearful of, whether it's a vacuum or sounds, do it at a distance, do it at a softer level volume-wise, whatever it is, and start incrementally, slow, and then add, and then you can also use food if you're doing food work to reinforce and counter condition that thing they're worried about. One, they're not allowed to flee from it, and then two, you want to counter condition, deepen the association that it's actually not a bad thing. But I don't recommend just trying to counter condition food on its own without blocking or having some mechanism in place to keep the dog one stable and another from fleeing the scene or getting away. So we use stuff like place command a lot to then bring stuff around the dog to work them like that. Some of these guys, in 2 weeks with a good program can turn around. Some of them 3 weeks. Some of them take months. And to be honest, a lot of it is just like us. It's a slow progression of like, they're never really done, just like we're never really done. So I think it's a good mindset shift to kind of get out of like, when are they fixed? But when I say like a couple weeks, 3 weeks to a month, I'm talking more about like, when are they pretty stable? And then the owners, of course, have to continue that, really keep rolling with that if they want them to get better and better and better. So giving you a timeline is a pretty tough one. without seeing the dog and knowing what you're up against. Patience, obviously is a big part of it. I know in Iceland you're limited with a lot of the tools you can use, so that's another thing that can make it harder, and it might actually stretch the timeline that you're looking at. Food counter conditioning would be a very powerful thing, especially utilizing food drive. That would be helpful, but you're not able to use e-collars or prongs or any of that stuff. So being able to reinforce consequences for breaking and override the fear or the anxiety to get away from something is something you don't have as easy of a time with as we do with some of the tools we have access with. Doesn't mean you can't do it, just might take you a little more time. So I know it's kind of all over the place and not the most concise, perfect answer, but it's kind of like fear and stuff. It's not the most perfect, concise stuff to deal with. So lots of patience, incremental flooding, but lots of foundation work before you start even doing that to get the mind straight, stable, as stress-free as possible. Then introduce the triggers, distance and volume lower, and then slowly increase that, and then enforce the rules of you're not allowed to break, even if you are worried about that stuff, and that overrides. I always talk about if the dog that can resist or push against stuff will continue to, and the dog that finally surrenders to I can't get away, I can't do this, actually relaxes to it and is less stressed and more successful. So that's the answer for you, Heidi.
Okay. Question number 2 comes from Erin Lee. It's a long question, so I'm just going to paraphrase it, but I will say that at the end, Erin says that she loves this Q&A video format, and
nice.
she says that we are hilarious together.
Really?
And
that
she
might
says,
be a stretch.
she says
Charming, maybe.
She says that GSDs really are the best dogs ever. And she's talking to me.
She's making a play.
I love
for
you, Erin.
Right?
You and I.
She's really trying to get in tight with you.
Okay, so I'm going to paraphrase Erin's question here. Basically, Erin she's a dog walker. She says that usually when she does the foundational work and masters the walk, all issues tend to resolve themselves, as we know.
That's very smart advice.
Very smart girl. So then she just brought on this Beagle Shepherd mix, 8-month-old, newly rescued, and he's doing all those things: mouthy, pulling on walks, reactive, fearful, etc. All normal stuff, but her problem is that he's incredibly submissive in temperament and will literally yelp if given a leash correction while he's on a flat nylon collar. The yelp is more intense if he's in a high-pressure environment. He'll even try to bite the leash. He doesn't have any marks on his neck. Basically, do you have any suggestions for working with such a soft dog? How do I get through to him without a prong or any of those other things and affect his state of mind? Thanks, Erin.
Good question, Erin.
E-collar.
E-collar. Do you want to take this one?
Well, I mean, I'll just add to it, and you can don't look at me like that.
Ladies and gentlemen,
no,
the Laura Morgan,
no.
Laura Jean Morgan show.
All right, I'll start it, and you
go
can.
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
She's a smart cookie. She knows what she's
an
talking
e-collar is a very good way to work with dogs that are super soft and super sensitive. I know, as everyone thinks, like e-collar would be like the strongest tool or the tool that you use on the dog that needs the most pressure, but that's actually the opposite in the way we train it. So the way we train things is obviously, Erin, you probably know this, but start at the lowest level. The dog can feel it. Teach them how to turn off the pressure, that they build confidence. Once they're fully trained and they know exactly what the pressure means, then you can move to corrections and go from there. That's my little spiel that I do on the phone. Stop yawning.
What was that?
Oh my gosh, you're not listening.
Because I trust so much. I trust implicitly that everything she said was right on the money. I'm sure it was.
Oh, you've heard it 1,000 times. Okay.
You're my right hand man.
Okay, so basically, getting a dog like that e-collar trained, you can start really, really low levels and see where they feel it, and work on the heel, work on the reactivity, work on recall, work foundation.
With slow, like continuous pressure rather than pops on the e-collar. So I would be doing things that are more continuous button at low levels with guidance with the leash and getting the dog into heel position or anything else that you want to do, especially if the dog's really reactive to sudden pressure. So you can make this less sudden pressure, softer conversation with the dog. You can make the e-collar so soft and still give the dog information about what you want from him. You can use the e-collar to create the pressure source and then use the leash very gently to guide him, to show him what you want him to do with that pressure that you're sharing with him. So
can you take that thing off Zilly's face?
No, I love that back there. Where did you go? A piece of grass?
Take it off of her.
Hi.
Belle.
Get that grass off your face, lady. All right. She's got to look pretty, right?
All right.
So, funny how she positioned herself
Yeah,
perfectly
she's right there.
So, so I think everything Laura said is really right on the money. That would be my first go-to. A sensitive dog like that, you know, say like even a slip collar, slip lead, or something like that is giving too much. The constricting action might be freaking him out.
But it also might be just a reaction to. It might be a learned manipulative reaction.
But you know, I'd also, you know, even though you're saying that there's no noticeable physical issue, I would really have a dog looked at closely that's got stuff going on like that.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't see a lot of attitude in other situations. This is an important distinction. So if the dog is sweet, pliable, listens, and
that's what I'm saying. It's
not?
bratty, it's mouthy,
Oh, it is?
it's reactive. Yeah. See,
Uh-oh.
he wasn't listening.
Okay, so
It's a brat.
what she said. So the dog's bratty. So then it's a really good point what Laura said as well, that it could be a learned behavior. It could be a great way that the dog has learned that when I do this, you know, and disagree with stuff, that it turns off whatever pressure he doesn't like, and that pressure might be somebody telling him what to do on the leash, telling him to heel, telling him to sit, whatever. We've got a dog currently, and that's very similar to that, with probably more severe behavior. So yeah, I think that's pretty solid advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't bratty, this is just one little extra thing I'll add on, even though I got shut down. If he wasn't bratty in other contexts, if this was the only situation he was a sweet guy, then I would definitely look at physiological issues to make sure I've got a problem here with a bison that's won't leave me alone. Get out of here, Hercules. It's Laura's dog, by the way. My dogs are being very respectful.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I'd say that go to e-collar. You can use an Educator Mini 300. They're pretty inexpensive if you haven't, you don't own one. You can get them off Amazon for a really good price, and you can watch. Go to our free how-to videos on.
We'll link them.
Yeah, we'll link them for heel, for recall, and for place. I mean, if you just do that, and we can also talk a little bit about thresholds and stuff if you want more information. But I think your e-collar would be definitely the way to mitigate this problem and see what's cooking. Because if there's e-collar stuff going on and he's resisting that, then you know it's not a physical issue, because the e-collar is not causing any constricting or any pain like that. It's just causing just a pressure source sensation. So it's a good check-in. Smarty Pants Morgan. And you went back to the Dark Emperor.
It's cold out here.
Is that how you bring up all of your dark answers?
Dark secrets.
Yeah, you dark.
Okay, question number 3. This comes from Dan Goldstein. He says,
Hi, Dan. Dan's a pretty regular guy on our Facebook page, too.
Hey, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm curious to know how you teach such immaculate downstays using the e-collar. Is it just like place command where the low-level pressure is applied until the dog goes down? Then again, pressure is applied if the down is broken, released once back in the down position? At what point in time, like day 3, 4, do you start using correction levels? And in the rehab process in general, when do you start using corrections? The 7-day behavioral temperament turnarounds you're able to accomplish are incredible to me.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Thanks. Okay, so we typically always start off with... can you say typically, always? I don't know. But we typically start off with leash and prong for the first 3 days. And so we do most of our down work starting right there. So the dog is, by the time we go to e-collar, the dog is really good with downs. He's already done duration downs, duration place. And so, man, I have such a hard time knowing where to focus.
Where the red button.
I'm trying. So it's hard to stare at a red button when I'm like making all these movements over here. So we start off with leash and prong for the first 3 days on typical cases, unless like on those 7-day cases, those we tend to have to rush a little bit more quickly and move a little more quickly through the process. I still probably do a day or so of leash and prong, because I find it's a lot easier on the dog to transfer to e-collar once the behavior's been trained with the prong collar. So as far as why do those work so well, we start off really soft and prong and leash pressure into the down position, right? Just low pressure guidance, low pressure guidance, low pressure guidance. When the dog's really got it, then we start asking it at a corrective level, which is down, and you have to do it. If you don't do it, you get a small pop on the leash, which means you have to do it. It's non-negotiable. And then we start doing duration work. We do a fair amount of reps, and so the dog knows when they hear down, they've got to lay down and they got to stay there. And we, are really good at adding distractions and proofing it, so the dog gets pretty darn solid at it. And then once we add the e-collar, then things really kind of take off, because dogs psychologically know that when you have a leash in your hand and when you don't, that when you start transferring to e-collar and you can correct Manny, and you can start correcting at a distance, it really starts to change the game for the dog. The dog goes, oh, you can correct me for a down even when you're a few feet away, and they start to stop breaking that command. So I'd say it's the culmination of a lot of like small steps done right, which is like, don't move too fast. Make sure you're doing leash and prong work first to where it's really solid. Dog knows what it means. Start getting some duration work. Do a lot of reps of it. Add distractions to where the dog's comfy with stuff cooking around him. Then you go to the e-collar, and then you really like move from there. That's Manny. Then you really move from there. He's having a seizure back there. Once you go to the e-collar, it tends to really elevate, or I should say expedite the process of learning. Dogs learn that you can correct at a distance, and they get really solid with it. And we just do a bunch of reps with distractions. And I wish I had a magic secret for it, but I think it's just the culmination of a lot of little steps done right. And I don't know if that makes it easier for you, but what I would do is go back to our videos, our instructional videos, and just watch them and emulate them just like that, because that's exactly what we do. And then and hopefully you'll be getting the same stuff.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that corrections, you just do corrections once the dog knows the behavior fully. So
and if those corrections aren't valuable enough, like it's Hercules, he's back again. If those corrections aren't valuable enough, this could be a sticking point. What I see a lot of owners struggling, and even other trainers, is that if the corrections aren't valuable enough, the dog will keep breaking. And so that immaculate heel or the immaculate down comes from a non-negotiable down. Eventually the dog knows, I got to lay down, and it's non-negotiable, and there'll be a consequence for it. And if you underwhelm the dog with the consequence, they're going to keep breaking, either due to distractions, or they won't lay down when you ask them. So there's a point where you have to really lay down the law and say, I've done this fairly, I've really fairly trained you, and now I'm really going to hold you to this level of expectation.
Okay, question number 4 comes from Karen Thompson.
Hi, Karen.
Sean, I guess this would be a form of resource guarding. A dog with a huge ball drive will sit down, stay, etc. to get me to throw the ball. My problem has been getting him to drop it. He will the first little bit, then starts mouthing it, challenging me to get it, then stare down, look. He'll,
I hate that stare down look.
Yeah, she'll snap at her fingers as I attempt to get the ball. He will totally ignore prong collar corrections, and e-collar corrections work most of the time, but I've seen him fight that too, just so he can keep the ball. When he gets to the point, he won't give it back.
So she's got him on prong and e-collar?
She's got him on prong and e-collar, and she says, what are your suggestions on how to work with him to get him to always drop it? It's a good opportunity for training and exercise, but not fun if it's a fight all the time. Makes sense.
What's her name again? Karen?
Karen Thompson, yeah.
Hey, Karen. What exactly? What's behind you? What is going on here? It's like a full pit bull attack. Get out of here, Hercules. So, okay, so to be honest, I've never been so uncomfortable with a dog in my life. Get out of here. So, to be honest, Karen, I've never had a problem with a dog once I've gone to e-collar, letting go of a resource, dropping anything. I've never seen that ever. So my suspicion is, once again, getting back to just that last question about downing, is that most likely you're not using levels that are valuable enough for the dog to prioritize what you're asking for, right? So you're asking the dog to drop, the dog wants to do something else, so he's prioritizing what he wants because the consequence is too underwhelming for him to prioritize what you want. So hopefully that makes sense. If you've taught your dog what drop or out means, and you've done it with a leash and prong, and it's been pretty clear, and the dog knows what you're looking for, and you've been fair with that, then it's time to up the level. So it's that time again, airplane time. It's time to up the level, and
go ahead.
Can you hear? Okay. Yeah. Up the level and make sure that the consequence is valuable enough for him to do what you're looking for. So I would be using e-collar, because e-collar is way better for resource guarding stuff. It's non-confrontational, and you've got as much power as you need to make that happen. So get the ball, the dog come to you, and then give the out or drop command. If it doesn't happen, pop correction, and then if it doesn't happen, repeat the command and pop at a higher level, and you keep going until that dog spits that ball out or whatever the item is. And I guarantee you there's a level that you'll hit on that e-collar where that dog will go and spit it out instantly. And then from there, it should get easier and easier and easier. Right now, the only thing I can make sense of what you're dealing with is that he's able to fight off the pressure, and that holding on to the ball is more valuable than the consequences is corrective at this point. It's a pretty typical thing that people get stuck in. People are worried they're going to hurt their dog, or it's going to be problematic, or be fallout, but that's not the case. If you've taught the dog what the e-collar means and you've taught him what out is, time to go to a higher consequence and make it happen. And I guarantee you should leave us not a question but a response next week saying, everything's awesome, Sean, we got him in a great space and he's spitting that ball out like nobody's business. So I want to hear that response next week. And don't yell, don't get excited, just out, turn up, out, turn up, out. I don't care if you're at 60, out. I don't want you to change your energy or get excited or intense or pissed off. Stay super neutral.
Okay, question number 5.
Hand's too big for that.
This is from Greg Salter.
Hey,
He
Greg.
says, "Hi, I want to know if you have an order to your foundation work, and if so, what can I do to work with my rescue dogs? I can try to tick things off."
Or where can I get it? So when I work, he wants it to actually get like.
Yeah, like what's the order basically of what we work with the foundation? Does it change to work with each dog and its need? Thanks so much for all your work. I think I'm just fixing it a little bit, but yeah, I think that's
okay.
the range.
Awesome. Okay, so Greg, good question. That's probably one of the things I think people struggle with the most is like a lot of people have good training skills and have all the knowledge, but they don't know how to put it all together piece by piece. So for us, we're pretty consistent. I mean, it'll change from dog to dog if there's serious stuff, going on. But what we typically do is dog comes in, I do, dog goes into the crate, so I do crate exercise, going in and out. Then I'll do thresholds, making sure the dog is not doing any kind of monkey business. I want to set that tone with crate and thresholds right away, that no pulling, disrespectful, tuned out stuff is going to transpire. And then typically I'll start them on the walk. I'll do a prong collar introduction and make sure the dog's comfy with the prong collar, even though I've already used it at the threshold if I've needed to. But I'll go to the prong collar intro, or call it leash pressure introduction. Then I start the structured walk. You should be able to get a pretty good structured walk in the first session. You've probably watched the other videos, so you know leash pressure introduction, then go to one-handed corrections. If that's not working, go to 180s, then go back to one-handed corrections. So you should hopefully know all that. If not, there's a great video with Lola that'll help you out with that. And then place command, and those are usually the first things that we hit, right? So if I can get a dog to walk nice, be great at thresholds, be great at the crate, and then get started with place command. You can't see me, but I'm doing my fingers over here. You've got a pretty solid foundation just within the first couple of days, right? Place command starts to train a dog to be still, to be quiet, to not be reactive to everything going on in its environment, and to start to really learn some impulse control. So all of these elements have impulse control built in, but like place command is a really challenging one. So typically that's it. So we go crate, thresholds, walk, place command, and if we can get those, like say I'm doing an in-home with a client, that's usually our first lesson. If everything goes smoothly, we'll do that. And if they're doing board and train, that's typically where we start as well, and it really goes a long ways towards getting the mind right. And then from there, as you're doing the structured walk, maybe the next day you start incorporating, or even the first day if the dog's comfy, you can start working on sit on the walk, at corners. And then after things are comfy, like a couple days in, like maybe your third day, I'll start doing downs, or second to third day downs, maybe on place, or maybe on the floor, something like that. And after 3 days of leash prong, doing all those activities like that, then we go to e-collar. We start with recall, and then we build recall to place, and then recall, place, sit, down, and that's like our whole enchilada. And then we just generalize it and add distractions and all that stuff. So that's our whole kit and caboodle. That's how we do it.
Okay.
6.
You got question number 6.
We gotta hustle.
I know. This is from Sean Curry. It's a nice long one, but I really...
You gonna paraphrase?
Paraphrase, but... All right. So he says, since I'm a Sean too, I knew you would be the guy to talk to about our 10-month-old Newfie.
Okay.
Just kidding. Okay. So I've been applying your principles to training our 100-pound Newfie puppy. And, everything, they're getting all the structure stuff, they're getting all the basics. We're frustrated with him that keeps forcibly playing with one of our smaller dogs that only weighs 13 pounds. She's a Havanese, and he jumps on her, barks at her, leans into her while pinning her against the wall. They do have times where they play together nicely, and he'll gently play tug of war with her. But these other episodes are happening 8 to 10 times a day. He doesn't bother the male Havanese in the house, just the female. So they're going to get him neutered, but it's too early right now. So I've been working with him on everything else, but we need to get rid of this aggressive domination. When they would catch him and correct him on a prong, he'd just roll over and think that they're playing. So they moved to e-collar. They just received an e-collar, and they know that the e-collar is what they need. But he says this means that they have to monitor the dog every time he acts up like this and have the transmitter all the time. Is it a challenge? It might be a challenge to carry the transmitter around every minute of the day, since we never know when he will act up.
Sean, come on, you can carry that transmitter around.
Well,
it's not like a boat anchor.
More than that.
I know. I'm just teasing. But okay, so I'm really, really happy to hear that you went to an e-collar, because that's definitely what I would have recommended, one Sean to another. Great choice on your part. Glad you're doing all this work. Bummer that your Newfie's giving you a hard time with your female Havanese. But e-collar is definitely going to be the way. What I would do is I would do our recall video, at least to condition the dog to what recall means, what the e-collar means. I do a couple days of that, and then, if you want to get fancy, I've got an e-collar place video. I would definitely teach him that, so you start to get some impulse control. It's all about leverage, right? So we can go after him and correct him just specifically for these issues, or you can start to train him to have better impulse control and a better attitude in the house in general. So that my thing would be train him recall, train him place, sitting down, all that stuff on e-collar, so he's immaculate on the e-collar, and then everything gets easier because he's going to be just a better dog in general. Now, once you've got some conditioning going on with him, then I would definitely be correcting him for any monkey business with the Havanese. But you probably shouldn't have to do this forever. So if you use a couple corrections that are valuable for the dog, and that's why you want to make sure you condition this before he's with the Havanese, because you don't want him to think the Havanese is biting him. You want to make sure he knows where the e-collar stem is coming from, and it's from his behavior, it's not from the other dog. So but once he starts getting into that, don't wait till he's being a maniac. But as soon as you see him start to go into hot pursuit of the Havanese, or start to get frisky and in this weird thing, correct him. Find a level that he goes, holy crap, I shouldn't do that, and then recall him away, right? So there's a level on that collar that once he's conditioned, you should be able to correct, and he should go, I don't want to do that behavior again. It's a simple concept, guys. Make the bad choice uncomfortable, and the bad choice will go away, and then recall him away and tell him something else to do, go to place, do whatever. But you shouldn't have to have that e-collar around forever. But right now, in the beginning, when you're really trying to get this great, you probably will, because you don't want to miss any moments. So set yourself up, be like a sleuth, be waiting for the dog to make the mistake, correct him at a firm level, and start low, and then work your way up. And if he ignores it, that tells you it's not the right level. When you see a behavioral change where he goes, I shouldn't do that, then you know you're in the ballpark. And then recall him away and tell him something else to do. But finding a good corrective level with that e-collar a few times, and you'll see behavior change pretty darn quickly. Yeah. And if you make those corrections effective and valuable, that will diminish the length of time you'll have to keep your eyes on him and watch him like a hawk and all that stuff. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and quickly, not to mention that he should be in place. If he's in place, if he's jumping on the Havanese to play, he's broken place command. So right now, 10 months old.
Doing that?
Yeah, he's been doing the foundation. So right now, 10 months old, whether it's on prong or e-collar, he should be on place, duration, place. Yeah. So if he's jumping off, he's not even getting corrected even for the fighting. He's getting corrected for the jumping off. So that's kind of the start of it.
Yeah, that's more of a foundational approach, and that's what we would be doing here. So I'm not sure exactly where you're at in your process, but Laura's 100% right. It's much better to not Band-Aid and create state of mind that's fundamentally cool across the board, so he's a better guy, because the stuff he's doing in half and ease will probably come out somewhere else if you don't get him into a better gear. He'll probably be a brat somewhere else or pushy somewhere else. So the place command really starts to diminish a lot of that entitlement, a lot of that like, I can do whatever I want and I'm king of the castle kind of stuff. King of the castle, right?
King of the castle.
From Borat. Sorry.
Okay. Question 7. Ashley Levinson says, can you help me make my dog happier in the car? Every time we go anywhere, she whines if the window isn't open, which now it's cold out and I can't do that. I have her restrained with a loose harness so she can't come up front, but she paces the back seat the whole time. On longer trips, she'll settle down nicely once we hit the highway.
Lindsay?
Ashley.
Hey, Ashley. I wish I could just make your dog abracadabra happier in the car. But typically that's going to involve more. It's going to involve more from you. So I would do you have to do some kind of foundational training. I mean, once again, we're always talking about leverage. So if you're trying to just make your dog better in the car, but you're not doing work anywhere else, it's really, really hard stuff to do, because you're basically, my guess would be that your dog's not a perfectly non-anxious dog in a lot of other contexts. So it's probably just escalating or elevating in the car. So I would do leash and prong at the very least. Teach him how to walk, really nice on the leash and prong. Get him really great at thresholds on the leash and prong. Teach him place command on the leash and prong, and then bring him up to the car. If he tries to jump in and bolt in the car, pop on the leash. No, you wait for permission. Start getting your dog to look to you for information, so he starts to be less stressed and more calm and more focused and tuned into you. And then you could even teach him place inside the car. So you could bring him in the car, place, down. Or you could just down him in the car, but you have to reinforce that. Now with leash and prong, it's harder than an e-collar. E-collar, you can be driving and actually have the remote in your hand and correct and have a really, really valuable conversation while you're moving. Leash and prong, a little bit more tough, but we've had plenty of clients that have had success with that. But the reality is, what we see, I'll give you a real quick thing, is that most of the clients that show up here have got issues in the car with their dog, a lot of anxiety and stressful, weird, aggressive behavior in the car. All we do is foundational stuff, get the state of mind right, a lot of duration work, a lot of calming activities, a lot of respectful behavior, thresholds, walk, place, all the stuff you hear me ramble on and on about. And then they go in the car, that stuff's gone. And if it's not gone, it's this big and it's easily rectified. Of course, we're doing a lot of e-collar work, so it makes it real easy. So start with the leash and prong if you want to start there. And if not, if you want to go big, go e-collar and watch our basic stuff to condition him, and then teach him a downstay, and then reinforce that. Your dog will be in a different gear if he's listening to you and in a downstay in the car than going back and forth like a tennis match. So it's a hard one if you're not doing foundation work.
Question number 8.
We're running short. We got to boogie.
I know.
Let's boogie.
It's the short one, Lindsay Ray Fontaine, again, our
Hey, Lindsay.
girl. So she's been practicing some downstay in the park on a 60-foot line. He's great. But when she calls him, he runs so fast he practically rolls 10 feet after me trying to stop. Should I just be happy he's really good at 2 things and accept his wrecking ball recall, or is there a way to have him slow down and jog to me?
You should trademark the wrecking ball recall. It's pretty awesome. This is a pretty common one. Somebody just asked this question a day or so ago, and that was about how do I get a dog who's recalling to not just blow by me like a steam train. So what I would do is I would teach him, hopefully he's got sit. Is she using e-collar?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So teach him, Manny. Teach him e-collar sit if you haven't already, and then start, just like this is what I said last week or the week before, start short distances with the recall so he can't build up cannonball steam, and get towards you, recall, and then have him sit right in front of you. You can use the e-collar pressure, press hold at the right level, get him to sit, slow him down, and then break, or then have him sit at a further distance, and then recall him back to you now from 10 feet, and then sit, and then recall him from 15, and then sit, and recall him from 20 and sit. But it's really important that you get him to come in and finish. You can initially move your body around to try and guide him if he's trying to blow by you. You can give him the sit command like, you might want to give them the sit command like 5 feet early, which is kind of interesting because usually you give the sit right when they've stopped, but give the sit command about 5 feet early. Press, hold the button, slow the dog down, and if you need to move in front of him a little bit to block him, then do that. Sit, but start short distances with slower speed, and that's real easy to start to build it out. Once your dog knows the rules of the game, that he's got to come sit to you, not blow by you, then he'll start to switch with that, and it'll get easier. Hope that makes sense.
Question number 9. Okay. This is from Aimee.
Jen.
Aimee Pham.
Uh-huh.
She says, I've adopted a female pit bull. She's probably 2 or 3. She gets along great with my boy and other dogs, but she can be very vocal when playing. She also likes to hump other dogs when she gets excited during playing. She knew simple commands when she got her. She didn't think she was socialized properly. I guess my question is, how do I stop her from humping dogs and being so vocal during playtime? I can usually grab her attention with a toy, but if someone greets them on a walk, she will get excited and try to hump my male. My male is lenient with her, but I fear she'll do this to a dog with less patience and will get bit or start a fight. She never shows this behavior at home, only on walks or at the park.
Okay, Aimee. So, yeah, humping can definitely get dogs into trouble. It's a pretty easy one for another dog to take umbrage with and go after and start a fight. So we were really pretty firm with that. We'll correct it either with a dressage whip if we're doing work and socialization at our house. A dog park, obviously, you're going to look like a villain if you've got a dressage whip. E-collar or prong collar would be our next thing. Those are the tools we use for this stuff. So anytime I see a dog going up into hump mode or just getting excited, I'd pop correction pretty firm to let him know, hey, break that intensity before it turns into an international humping incident. So if your tools are limited, that's a problem, right? So e-collar is the easiest because you've got it, at whatever distance. So if your dog is off leash and humping, you can give him a correction for that. If you're on leash and your dog starts to try and hump another dog, you can pop correct him for that and get it done. You could try pet convincer if you don't use prong or you don't use e-collar and see if that breaks him. But of course that corrects generally, so it might freak out the other dog as well. But once again, if you're in like your home or in a yard or something like that, then a dressage whip works really good. You might even want to practice it and get him done with that behavior in the confines of your own home, so you don't look like a maniac out there with the dressage whip. But they work really good for stopping humping. So when we've got socialization stuff we're doing and a dog starts to hump, quick little smack on the rump, and dogs typically stop doing that. Or e-collar, a quick little bump on the e-collar and the dog stops. So prong, e-collar, dressage whip, or pet convincer would be the 4 choices to find out which one works best for you and your dog.
Okay, big question number 10.
Yeah.
Do we want to deal with a reactive dog or aggressive dogs in a car?
We already did a car one, so let's do another.
Okay. So this is from Chris Karimi Nasser.
Yeah.
It says reactive dog will come, lay down, and stand depending on the command, but he still watches bike or a skateboarder with very assertive face, ears forward, lips, and wrinkled forehead head. And body tense. If given a chance, he would take off after them, barking the deep, threatening bark. He's a high-strung husky shepherd, has always been nervous around new things, and he trots in circles when he's nervous. So,
sounds like me. Okay, so we get dogs like this all the time, and the thing we always do is we just go after a structured walk. We use e-collar or prong collar. E-collar is preferred. It's always going to be the better tool for real reactivity stuff. And you start with the basics, which is an immaculate heel, which takes away about 75 to 80% of mental intensity that causes problems on the walk. You do the same thing at thresholds, whether it's leash and prong or e-collar. Get the dog to be tuned in, respectful, and relaxed. Do the same thing at the crate. And when you're on that walk, after you've built that stuff and you've got a nice, great e-collar heel going on, then when your dog starts to get like that, then you give them a quick little bump on the e-collar and a no, and it might be, I don't know what your corrective level will be, depending on the tool you're using and your dog, and the proximity to the trigger. But when we have a dog that we've already gotten all that other foundation work, the walk is really awesome. We're on the e-collar. The second the dog starts to look at the trigger and starts to get tense, say no, simultaneously pop, correct with the e-collar. dog relaxes. If you're at the right level on the e-collar, goes right back to his thing. If the dog does not relax, then I go up on the e-collar, repeat the command or repeat the correction, no, and pop. And what I'm looking for is the dog to go, right, so he's in this kind of thing, and I'm looking for pop, no. I'm looking for relaxation and disengagement from the trigger like that. So it's simple. It's simple in that if you use all those steps, if you do crate, threshold, walk, and have that stuff in place, then it's real easy when you want to go correct for the other stuff, especially if you're using an e-collar. It's a piece of cake usually to fix this stuff. But if you're trying to do it on a prong, depending on how responsive your dog is to the prong, it can be a lot harder. But once again, it can still be achieved, but it's just a lot more work for you. But I would say don't try and go out and make your husky less reactive or get into less trouble just in those moments. That's the thing I'm always rambling on and on and on about, is don't try and band-aid that one problem. Don't try and address that one problem. The real magic in effective dog training is more foundational work to where the state of mind is better overall, so when you do have to address a specific situation, it either doesn't exist or it's much, much smaller. And you hear me say this over and over again because that's how we work and that's how we're so effective. So get your threshold, get your crate, get your e-collar heel or your prong collar heel, and get it immaculate. Immaculate means the dog's head is parallel with your hip, zero pulling, not going towards a tree, not sniffing the ground, not doing anything except being present with you and being really respectful and really tuned in. The dog looks at something that triggers him. Do not wait to see if your dog is going to explode. Most likely he's going to. He's going to continue to escalate. Catch him at the first floor as the elevator starts to go up. Correct firmly with either the prong or the e-collar. If you do it at the right level, the elevator will stop going up and it will go back down to the first floor and stop. If you're too slow or your correction is too low, the elevator will keep rising. Eventually you get to the point where you have full-blown reactivity and explosions and all that stuff. So foundation, and then go after the actual situation, and correct early and correct firmly, and use enough space to where you're not cooking your dog's goose or yours or your own by trying to do too much where you can't really be successful. So that is number
10.
Awesome. We're done.
Yay, Q&A Saturday.
It's rolling, guys. I hope you like this. I hope you like it. Please let us know what you're thinking. Hercules loves it. He's a big fan. Oh, Hercules. And Manny too. So let us know what you guys think of it. We're just getting it rolling and we're having a lot of fun with it. And we're open to suggestions as long as they are complimentary and say that you really like what we're doing.
No. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, as long as they're nice.
As long as they're
I'm very
sweet.
sensitive.
Okay. We love
All right,
you guys.
see you guys.
We have a
Take
client.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hercules.